What's going on? On my way to this damn property. I thought we made decisions what was going to happen with this damn wall. I guess we didn't, supposedly. So I have to drive 30 minutes for this BS, but it is what it is. But anyway, so Terrence Crawford, it was confirmed that Errol Spence is going to be fighting against Ugas. And Terrence Crawford, I guess, puts out some tweet about how, everybody are, quote, puppets. And I guess he's going to have to be the puppet master. You know what I'm saying? I guess the person that's controlling the strings, he's going to have to make himself that. And it's confusing when he says things like this or does certain things, because he continues to try to make it seem as if he's in a position of power that he's just not in at all. And it's just kind of I don't know, it's mind baffling to me anyway. Because how exactly are you going to put yourself into that space where you're controlling everything? You got Errol Spence that's fighting for 3 titles right now, against Ugas on another pay-per-view. What are you going to do that's anywhere near that or that can surpass that? You got to kind of, you can even go back and kind of look at the two, fighters' careers. Like, if you're talking about being a puppet master, you can kind of look at it's putting yourself into a space where you have control, right? That's what he's trying to do. And if you look at somebody like Errol Spence comes into the game. He's doing this thing. He starts to get notoriety. But the guys that are really popping right at that point is like Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Manny Pacquiao. They're all kind of just doing their thing. Where Floyd Mayweather was kind of on his way out at the time. But, Errol Spence was in a space where he was a very dangerous fighter, and none of these guys wanted to fight him. Nobody would fight him. So, he understood. He's like, okay, I got to do something, to put me into the position where I can then command things. So what he does is that, he's going to different events, he's talking, he's getting his hype going on. His promoter's able to still get him certain fights like the Algiers, the Bundus, things of that, and he's wiping guys out, just flatlining them. The IBF is playing with him for a while, giving him mandatory after eliminator after eliminator after eliminator, but he stays steady with it. And then he finally gets his shot against Kell Brooks, annihilates Kell Brooks, gets him all the way out of there. Fights his mandatory, he's putting in big numbers, everything, got his IBF belt. Terrence Crawford comes up, he gets his belt. At that time, he was talking about, yeah, I'll fight him. If he wants to do a fight, I'll fight him. But at the time, Terrence Crawford, the person he wanted to fight was supposedly Keith Thurman. So obviously the Keith Thurman fight doesn't happen. He gets his belt against Horn, and Errol Spence in this space was like, all right, they were willing to do the fight right then. They actually talked and everything. Like, we can do this fight right now. It was easy at that time too. It was a 50-50 bout. Bob Arum, Terrence Crawford, they decided that business sense, it didn't work at that time. When they're going to want too much money, this and that, it can't work now. When this fight does 500,000 plus pay-per-views, then we'll do this fight. That's what they said. When they're in an equal level at that time. So okay, so they both go their own way. So what does Errol Spence do? He has a couple of fights. After that, he has Mikey Garcia wants to do a pay-per-view bout, so he goes ahead and he does a pay-per-view bout. He does numbers. After he does that fight, all of a sudden now, everybody wants to fight him. Everybody's down to fight him all of a sudden, because now he propelled himself into the space where fighting him brings you a lot of money. Not only to him, but to you yourself. He's doing big gates. He's doing pay-per-view numbers now. Fights against Sean Porter for a unification bout. They put that on pay-per-view. That does over 300,000 plus pay-per-views. That does a massive gate as well. After that particular fight, Danny Garcia is talking about how now he wants to fight him. He's in a position of control now. After that, he goes ahead, he fights. He obviously has his issues, his accident and everything like that. He comes back, he takes on Danny Garcia, he fights Danny Garcia. In another pay-per-view bout that does 250,000 plus pay-per-views or whatever. And then after that, he actually gets himself the Manny Pacquiao fight. It just happens that he had a torn retina. Ugas wins the fight. Ugas fights and Manny Pacquiao, beats Manny Pacquiao. And then, so it's like, okay, what's Errol Spence going to do? He has a mandatory coming up. The WBA talks about they're doing this tournament and they're not allowing Errol Spence to fight against Ugas for unification. but he put himself in the position where he was with people who could take care of that situation. They were able to take care of that. They were able to give these two people step aside money. They're probably going to fight on his card, and get more money, but he gets to then fight against Ugas in another unification, in another pay-per-view, where he's going to make a substantial amount of money, and he can put himself into the space where he has 3 of the belts. He put himself with the moves that he was making so he could have that control, so he could then hold the strings, so then he could be the puppeteer. He made moves that would put him into that position. So now you can kind of turn around and you look at Terrence Crawford and you look at the moves that Terrence Crawford makes. Terrence Crawford's coming up, he has his loyalty to Bob for whatever reason. The reality of the situation is Terrence Crawford was just a point, he was just a body at one point. He was just a body. Freaking Top Rank didn't even take all of him. They had it set up in a way where his old promoter was going to get Jim Duncan or whatever the hell his name was going to get 8% of all his money once he got a title. 8% of every single fight that while he's on Top Rank, that man will be getting paid that amount of money. If Top Rank thought that much of him, they would have bought all of them. They would have been like, nah, we need him. We need him completely to ourselves. So we're going to pay whatever it takes to do that. They didn't do that. That's not what they did. So they don't do that. You get a last minute, you're basically a last minute replacement. You're a last minute replacement where they damn, I almost got hit by a truck. God damn. You're a last minute replacement where they made you jump up and wait to fight, and you ended up winning. So it's kind of like a surprise, like, oh my gosh. So they keep on moving with you. You end up getting undisputed. You're undisputed at 140 pounds, where you can now move up and you can fight anybody you pretty much want. You can make a petition, probably fight one mandatory eliminator, and after that eliminator, go straight into a title shot. So you were in a position where you could have had control. Your promoter controls the WBO, so you can get that belt at any time. You could have went after the IBF, you could went after the WBA, the WBC, belts that Keith Thurman owned. You could have did all this, but instead of Earl Spence held the IBF, but instead of doing that, you come up and you go after the WBO. To that one time that you could have had control, you chose not to have control, and you chose to go ahead and fight in-house, basically against Jeff Horn for the WBO belt. You fight for that particular belt. Now you're just quote calling out. Earl Spence wins his title. You win your belt. So they're talking about they'll do a 50-50 deal with you. Because you're basically on the same level at that time. You say, nah, we can do it later. We'll wait until it's 500,000 plus pay-per-views. Then we'll do the fight. Thinking that you're somehow still going to be able to build up a certain amount of leverage or strength over time, not looking and seeing what exactly do you have. You may be thinking, hey, I got Manny Pacquiao. I'm going to fight Manny Pacquiao. You know where I'm going to be after I fight Manny Pacquiao? How's he going to top that? How's he going to top that? And you have you have Bob Arum and Top Rank just dangling that Manny Pacquiao fight. You never get it. You never get it. Your contract is over. Now it's another time where now, okay, you had the opportunity to be the puppet master again, to control the strings, where you can go out there, you can check with the Zone, you check with PBC, all these different other outlets, and see what they're able to pay you, what they're willing to pay you. At a time when you would have been a major commodity at that time. And that's a time where the Zone was putting up ridiculous amounts of money. Or you had PBC available to you with all the fighters that you really want to fight, where you could have did massive deals with, made a massive amounts of money with them. Or you could have taken whatever offers they give you, bring it back to Top Rank, and utilize that leverage to get even more money from Top Rank. But this time of power that you could have had, you didn't even utilize it. You just talked to Top Rank, you set up some kind of deal, and you just took it. You took whatever deal that Top Rank, decided to give you, or you guys negotiate or whatever it is. But never even went to check out the landscape to see how much you really were worth. You never set anything up in place that would guarantee you a fight with the guys that you quote wanted to fight. So you let that one time that you could have controlled the strings go again. Then you're going ahead, you're fighting on Top Rank. You're doing these fights. You had a couple pay-per-views, didn't do well at all. Even to this point, Earl Spence can take one of his pay-per-views and it's generated more money than all your other fights. Your other pay-per-views combined. So that's the space that he's in. And then and then you get to the point where your contract is basically it's almost over. Earl Spence is out here doing pay-per-views, doing big numbers, doing big gates. You're forced into a Sean Porter fight, somebody that Earl Spence fought. You end up getting 1/3 the gate. You end up getting 1/3 of the pay-per-views. With an opponent that you can compare with him, and Sean Porter didn't lost nothing when it comes to credibility when he fought against Earl Spence. So you can't say it was because of that. So you lost, and then now you're out of Top Rank. It's people, you have the zone saying that, nah, we're not going to sign him. It's too much money and we can't offer him what he wants. This is how people are talking about you. You're out here in the ocean talking about, you still haven't got the Manny Pacquiao fight. You're sitting out here in the ocean talking about, I'm looking for the big fish, and you're talking about, I got to be the puppet master. I got to be the puppet master. I got to be the puppet master. While Earl Spence is out here getting another big fight in another unification, and he's going to put himself into a space where he has 3 belts with another pay-per-view that does substantially more than yours, and does substantially higher in the gates as well, while you're left to do what? Left to do what? Whatever perception that Terrence Crawford has in his head of what things are, he needs to get out of that, and he needs to get into reality. And if he doesn't get into reality, the way things are going right now, this is just the way things are going to continue to go. And unfortunately, if he doesn't get out of that mindset, I don't see this undisputed bout happening. But I do know that, yes, Earl Spence, I believe after, if he's able to beat Ugas, which is a big if, it's not going to be easy to do so, I believe he will definitely go try to get undisputed. And we'll see if they can make the deal work or not. But this whole Terrence Crawford being able to control things, be the puppet master, control the strings, no, that's something that's just not happening. Like, subscribe, share. I'm out.